On March 29, 2026, the Red River Unitarian Universalist Church hosted the Reverend Dr. Mark Y.A. Davies speaking about the dry bones of our democracy. Our democracy is at its weakest point since before the passage of the Voting Rights Act. We are currently characterized as a flawed democracy by the Economist Democracy Index, and we are in very real danger of becoming a failed democracy as we continue our fall into authoritarianism. What can be done to bring the dry bones of our democracy back to life? Welcome from Red River Unitarian Universalist. Thank you for joining us. The religion we practice in this church is centered in the here and now rather than the hereafter. It is more of a thinking kind of religion than a believing kind. It is governed more by reason than by tradition, more concerned with the present than the past. It is concerned with getting the most out of life, with living wisely and well. A major aim for us is continually expanding our understanding of life and ourselves. This church is a community of people who share in the free and open search for a level of understanding that will enable us to be more fully and effectively alive. The church does not tell us what we must believe. It stimulates us to think. It supports us in our search. You are welcome to join us. Our centering value is love, with transformation, generosity, equity, interdependence, justice, and pluralism.
We come together to lament with, celebrate with, and care for one another in our community and in our world. Because we want to be here with one another, love is not only at the center, but also the opening that invites us to lament, celebrate, and care. Love invites us to honor our interdependence with all beings in the web of all existence. Love invites us to envision a world where all are free from exploitation, and the smallest to largest are protected and nurtured with care and respect. Love invites us to revel in our uniqueness, using pluralism as our guide. Love invites us to recognize all beings as sacred and celebrated. Our differences are appreciated and valued. All are equally sacred, regardless of culture, theology, and experience. Love invites us to counter all forms of oppression with justice. Love invites us to dismantle all forms of racism and systemic oppression. All people are worthy of thriving. Love invites us to participate in our individual and collective transformation. Love invites us to cultivate change so we may grow spiritually and ethically. We know that we are perfectly imperfect and never finished growing. Love invites us to connect by opening our hearts to generosity. Love invites us to willingly and thoughtfully share our time, talent, and treasure. Our generosity connects us in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Love invites us to create inclusive, equitable communities. Love invites us to know in our hearts that all people are inherently worthy and have the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Love invites us to worship together. At this time, we have opportunity to light our candles of community. You can light a candle for joy, a concern, to remember someone, or simply to bring more light into our space.
Dear Mr. President, come take a walk with me. Let's pretend we're just two people and you're not better than me. I'd like to ask you some questions if we can speak honestly. What do you feel when you see all the homeless on the street? Who do you pray for at night before you go to sleep? What do you feel when you look in the mirror? Are you proud? How do you sleep while the rest of us cry? How do you dream when a mother has no chance to say goodbye? How do you walk with your head held high? Can you even look me in the eye and tell me why? Na, 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 na. Dear Mr. President, were you a lonely boy? Were you a lonely boy? How can you say no child is left behind? We're not dumb and we're not blind. They're all sitting in your cells while you pave a road to hell. What kind of father would take his own daughter's rights away? And what kind of father might hate his own daughter if she were gay? I can only imagine what the First Lady has to say. You've come a long way from whiskey and cocaine. How do you sleep while the rest of us cry? How do you dream when a mother has no chance to say goodbye? How do you walk with your head held high? Can you even look me in the eye? Let me tell you about hard work, minimum wage with a baby on the way. Let me tell you about hard work, rebuilding your house out of the bombs took them away. Let me tell you about hard work, building a bed out of a cardboard box. Let me tell you about hard work, hard work, hard work. You don't know nothing about hard work, hard work, hard work. How do you sleep at night? How do you walk with your head held high? Dear Mr. President, you'd never take a walk with me. Would you?
Hear these words for our chalice lighting. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones, and in the stillness of this hour, may we sense it calling our name. Let us join together in the spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and freedom, and to help one another. We light this peace candle to remind us of all the places in the world where there is no peace. Join me in the words now on the screen. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. This time we have a UU snippet and our stewardship moment after that.
Our UU snippet this morning is the spirit of our shared work, understanding congregational polity. This morning, I want to take a moment to talk about why we are all here today, and specifically how we function as a community. You've likely heard the term congregational polity thrown around in board meetings or during our annual meetings, and if you haven't, welcome to a new term. Congregational polity. It sounds a bit formal, but at its heart, it's actually a very beautiful and radical way of being together. First, a little history. So where did this idea of congregational polity come from? Modern congregationalism really took root in the late 16th and early 17th centuries in England and among the Pilgrims. These separatists believed that a church shouldn't be governed by a distant king or a powerful bishop. And as somebody suggested today, not even by Trump. Instead, they believed that the holy lived right here, within local gathering of people. They brought these ideas to the shores of New England. And those early democratic seeds eventually grew into the foundation of our Unitarian and Universal traditions today. It's important to us today because essentially it means that at Red River Unitarian Universalist Church, the buck stops with us. We aren't a franchise of a larger corporation. We are a self-governing, independent family. There are 4 key pillars that make this work. We have local autonomy. We are free from any higher human authority. We own our own property, we manage our own affairs, and we decide our own path. We use the democratic process. This is the power of the pew. Our members, all of you who vote to elect our board and committees, you approve our budgets, set our policies, and you are the ones who call or hire our minister. Your voice is the final authority. We are self-supporting. Because we are independent, we are also responsible for one another. Our ministry is funded entirely by our own stewardship and generosity. We do have a voluntary association. Just because we're independent doesn't mean we're isolated. We choose to walk alongside others. We voluntarily associate with the UUA, which is the Unitarian Universalist Association, to share resources and amplify our values in the wider world. It matters that in a world that often feels top-down, congregational polity is a reminder that we are all partners. Every time you serve on a committee, vote on a budget, or help a newcomer feel at home, you are practicing this ancient and vital form of democracy. Thank you for being the governing body and the heart of Red River Unitarian Universalist Church.
It is my turn to tell you why we want your money. And as promised, this speech is not prepared. I've been moving, and I don't know where my glasses are, which is why I look so cool. I remember specifically stating that even if I moved further away from the church, even if it was difficult for me to get here every week, I would still send my money here because the existence of this place and this congregation is very important. It's important to the entire area to keep the presence of sanity, places where Democrats go, places where leftists go, places where people who believe in generosity and community and not giving in come to love on each other and stand up for each other. My church family showed up to help me move, and I moved closer instead of further away because it's absolutely worth it. Please support your congregation. And that's it.
Our opening thought comes from the Varieties of Democracies Institute 2026 Democracy Report. The global democratic decline is notable and ongoing, whichever measure we use. For the average global citizen, the level of democracy is now back to 1978. It means that the enormous expansion of freedoms and rights achieved with the third wave of democratization is almost entirely eradicated. Several major global and regional powers, including now the USA, are undergoing, or did so recently, notable democratic declines, magnifying the global implications of the third wave of autocratization. We have dancing to the beat, we have knitting to the beat. Our next reading comes from Timothy Snyder, a book that I have mentioned in a previous discourse with you, titled On Freedom. Snyder writes, Americans are told that we were given freedom by our founding fathers, our national character, or our capitalist economy. None of this is true. Freedom cannot be given. It is not an inheritance. We call America a free country, but no country is free, noting a difference between the rhetoric of the oppressors and the oppressed. The dissident Eritrean poet Y.F. Mabrathru reports that they talk about the country, we talk about the people. Only people can be free. If we believe something else makes us free, we never learn what we must do. The moment you believe that freedom is given, it is gone. Our meditation this morning will be to the words of Dana Edwards, Our Lifelong Work of Liberation. So let's take a moment to center ourselves and sit comfortably, taking some deep breaths in and out. In and out. Spirit of life and love, times are tough and trepidation swirls in our hearts. Groceries are expensive and our paychecks don't go as far as they used to. Hateful words drip off the lips of our politicians and sow division in our nation. People we loved are lost to hateful rhetoric and dubious conspiracy theories. And still there is hope. Through the generations, our democracy has been threatened, questioned, and buffeted. Our government has not always lived up to its ideal of freedom for all. We are grateful for all those organizers, journalists, freedom fighters, clergy, and regular people who knew that the people of our nation are called to do better and be better. Those like Grace Lee Boggs, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, Dolores Huerta, Harriet Tubman, Viola Luiso, and so many others who knew that freedom isn't free, who saw the deep and intricate connections of the human web, who cared enough to show up and keep showing up, who loved the people of this nation enough to keep fighting for who we could be. They gave us hope. They gave us hope that even though our democracy is not perfect, striving towards excellence is in the way we care for the people of this nation, serve the people of this nation, and govern the people of this nation is a worthy and noble cause. Our faith also gives us hope, a faith that knows that transformation is a holy and sacred task, that affirms that the democratic process is a faithful act, that brings us a generous heart and a lens of justice and liberation to all that we do, that values equality and equity and is centered in love. Our love gives us hope. A revolutionary love that challenges us to find the worth and dignity in those with whom we disagree. Love that inspires us to amplify the voices that are often silenced. Love that holds us when the work of liberation seems so daunting. A love so big it bears the heavy weight of complex humans with ease. Spirit of life, may love, hope, and wisdom guide us in our lifelong work toward liberation. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Our second reading comes from Ibram X. Kendi and his new book, Chain of Ideas. He writes, this book primarily chronicles the spread of great replacement theory as a racist idea. But it also shows at times these mutations to the theory. In a more expansive sense, great replacement theory can be defined as a political theory that powerful elites are enabling disadvantaged groups to steal the lives, livelihoods, cultures, electoral power, and freedoms of privileged groups who now need authoritarian protection.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. We'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
One might be wondering where the dry bones part of the title is coming from. Last week I was giving the sermon in a Presbyterian church, and the lectionary reading for last Sunday in the common lectionary was Ezekiel, a reading from Ezekiel, where the prophet Ezekiel in the Hebrew Bible is looking at what he describes as the dry bones of Israel. He's describing the experience of Israel in the Babylonian exile and the fact that their culture, their religion, their identity was like dry bones in the desert. And he was reflecting on what would need to happen in order for those dry bones to come back to life again. And he's prophesying that they will eventually come back to life again. They'll come together and be alive. And that scripture passage and the Hebrew Bible made me think about our democracy. Because in many ways, our democracy is like those dry bones. And we're wondering what it will take to bring those dry bones of our democracy back to life again, because our democracy is at its weakest point since before the passage of the Voting Rights Act in the 1960s. We're currently characterized no longer as a full democracy, as we were for many, many decades. We're characterized as a flawed democracy by the Economist Democracy Index. And we are falling fast towards the identification of being a failed democracy as we continue our fall into authoritarianism. The primary global conflict of our time, I would argue, is not between capitalism and communism. It's between democracy and whether we fall into autocracy. And for the past 2 decades, autocrats are winning. They're winning all over the world. And not only are they winning, they're cooperating and collaborating with each other in their work to make the world more autocratic. Democracy has been on the decline globally during the 21st century, but especially it's been on the decline in the largest democracies of the world. And the Varieties of Democracy report that I read from earlier, which comes out of Sweden, lays things out in really stark terms in the latest report, which is looking back on 2025. As I said, democracy is back to 1978 levels for average global citizens. The third wave of democratization that started in 1974 in Portugal has been almost eradicated. The level of democracy for the average citizen in Western Europe and North America is at its lowest level in over 50 years, and the report notes that this is primarily due to ongoing movements towards autocracy in the United States of America. The USA has lost its long-term status in this report as a liberal democracy, the first time that it lost this status in over 50 years. The world now has 92 autocracies and 87 democracies at the end of 2025. Nearly 3/4 of the world, however, in terms of population, that's 74% of the over 8 billion people that we have. So about 6 billion people are now living in autocracies. There are now more people living in closed autocracies, which makes up about 28% of the population, or 2.3 billion people, than are living in electoral and liberal democracies combined, which is only 26% of the population, or 2.2 billion people. Only 7% of the global population live in liberal democracies now. That's just about 0.6 billion. The report notes that freedom of expression continues to be the most attacked aspect of democracy. And it's worsening. And in 2025 alone, it's noted that freedom of expression worsened in 44 countries. So in both the national and the global context, it's critically important to recognize that democracy is under threat. And we clearly recognize that democracy is under threat here in the United States. In fact, many within the United States are actively arguing that we've never been a democracy, that we should not be a democracy, that their understanding of our being a republic is somehow antithetical to being a democracy. And some are openly embracing authoritarianism, openly embracing autocracy in order to protect their interests. And that's what Ibram X. Kendi is getting at with this, his understanding of the Great Replacement Theory and how it's being used around the world to justify autocracy. It's critically important to recognize that religious and racially based nationalism, that's an enemy of democracy throughout the world. We need to recognize that the 2 largest democracies in the world are in great peril because of religiously based nationalism, the United States and India. At times, Brazil has also been under threat as well. The flames of religious nationalism that have been really exacerbated greatly by our current president and other leaders in the world are deep threats to flourishing democracy, not only in places like the United States and India, but throughout Western Europe and Eastern Europe and around the world. In 2016 was the last time that the United States had the status of a full democracy. And as I said, we're moving towards the status not only of where we are now, of a flawed democracy, but eventually being a failed democracy if we continue on this path. It's also critically important that we recognize that economic factors are playing a significant role in our democracy failing. There's this continued and increasing large wealth gap between the rich and the poor that's weakening our democracy. And it's not an accident that Russia's attempts at democracy weakened and ultimately failed when it was attempting to move from a more totalitarian state towards a democracy, that their efforts failed as the kleptocratic oligarchy strengthened and flourished in that country. Increasing wealth inequality in the United States has weakened the confidence of people here in the government to create a fair playing field, and this can lead people to become more easily manipulated by populist, autocratic leaders who claim that they can fix it, that they alone can fix it. It's also critical that we become more fully aware of the work that's being done by autocratic networks around the world to undermine democracy. It's in the interest of autocrats to weaken democracy everywhere so that autocracy can be strengthened everywhere, not only in their home countries, but also around the world. Democracies must be vigilant in responding to these attacks. Sometimes the attacks are violent attacks. We see in Hong Kong violent attacks at democratic efforts there. Sometimes these attacks come in the forms of war, as we see between Russia and Ukraine. Sometimes these attacks are more subtle in nature, attempts to influence global opinion against democracy and to sow discord among people living in democracies. If you spend any time on social media, you see these efforts, constant efforts to sow discord among people living in democracies. We've also seen that propaganda is being used by autocrats all around the world to control the minds and actions of their populace and to attempt to weaken democracy globally. When propaganda does not work, they move to more extreme measures of prisoning, poisoning, acts of violence, and even war as options. So to address this assault on global democracy, the democracies of the world must be as committed to supporting each other as the autocracies are committed to supporting each other. And this requires that we learn from each other and that we be cognizant of what strengthens our democratic institutions. And here in the United States, we've made this critical error of constantly claiming that our country is the best in the world, that we are, American exceptionalism, right? That we don't have anything to learn from the world. We make this claim when we are demonstrably not the best country in the world. The evidence is clear that we are not. And we make this claim when we really ought to be humbly learning from other countries whose democracies are proving to be much more vibrant, much more robust than our own. If we could let go of the myth of American exceptionalism, if we could humbly seek to learn from others and improve ourselves, we quickly learn that we have so much to learn from democracies that have proven to be working better than ours. And by learning from them, we could soon find that we have a lot to gain from them. By becoming a full democracy again, we would be so much happier, healthier, better educated, less corrupt, more equitable, more participatory, more just, more peaceful, many values that we all recognize as being important values not only to our country, but of course within Unitarian Universalism as well. Communities like this one, congregations like this one, who value justice, who value democracy, have a deep moral responsibility in times like these. It's our moral responsibility to keep the light of freedom, justice, and equity shining in the darkness of autocracy. It's our moral responsibility not to be silent. It's our moral responsibility to protect the most vulnerable. It's our moral responsibility to this generation and generations of life to come that are coming in the future to never give up, because every act of resistance is important and counts in the work for true freedom and justice for all. It is our moral responsibility to find the courage to work together to bring these dry bones, these very dry bones of our democracy back to life. There are so many barriers in our way, and there's so much that we have to overcome to save our democracy. But deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. At this time, we have an opportunity to give. You can bring your gifts to the table, and there's also opportunities to give online.
I've been reading Common Sense by Thomas Paine. I've got national elections on the brain. You want a revolution, I want a revelation. So how you gonna change the nation? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And when you vote for president, you get to pick who participates in the sequel. Work! Vote, vote. America! Vote, vote. The time is now. And vote, vote. Decide who wins this. Vote. Vote, baby, vote. Vote, baby, vote. Vote, baby, vote. Are you registered, baby? Vote, baby, vote. Vote, baby, vote. Vote, baby, vote. Are you registered, baby? This is the truth of who I am, and it's taken me my whole life to celebrate. I won't go back. You can give me a number, slap on a label, tell me I won't be welcome at your table, but I won't bow down to the tyrants anymore. I know what to do, I've been here before. Time
Our benediction will use the words from Lucas Hergert, Democracy's benediction. We are democracy, unruly, unfinished, unrelenting people of rebellious joy, taking to the streets, underground resilience, resisting complacence, the pleasure of activism, organizing into simple hope. We are democracy, people of principles taking on principalities, witnessing the worth of those called unworthy, justice just now gaining ground, integrity of interdependent existence extending, living democracy in heads, hands, hearts. We know that democracy can die, ossify, brittle byproducts of bygone idealists, plotting politicians, pirating votes, corporations cannibalizing our care for the world. Look, it can wither, distend, come to an end. Democracy, today we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line. Let us join together in extinguishing our chalices. We extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.